You sit down.
Yeah, let's do that, man. That's a lot better.
Yeah. again.
This is outtake. What are you saying, Kate?
I'm cool, yeah. I'm happy to be here.
This is the legendary, epic Kate Tempest. I just want to say this is an honour for me. On a level, it's actually an honour for me. I think first time I saw you perform was in Roundhouse, I think like 2012 or something. You just shelled down and it was so... And I was like, yeah, one day I want to be like her still.
Wow.
Yeah.
Silly, wow.
Nah, but what's it called? Obviously nominated for the Hyundai Mercury Prize. Second time you've been shortlisted.
Yeah.
Like, last year you was a judge as well, innit? So how was the process? Like, what has it given you a new perspective being a judge in relation to the whole thing, as opposed to being a nominee?
Definitely has. But like, even just sitting at that table and listening into the kind of conversations that get had about, you know, how in depth everybody goes into the records to discuss the kind of the nominees, like the people, you really do have to really defend the records that you're into. You know, you have to discuss the pros and the cons, and it's, you know, it's a deep process actually, and people get really passionate about it. And I found it really humbling experience to be in that room and then realise that people had talked about, you know,
your project in that same. Yeah,
it's amazing. Also, I said this before, but you get given at the beginning of the process like 300 albums to listen to.
300?
Well, the year I did it, there was at least 300, yeah.
Wow.
Maybe even a few more. And like, you listen, or I did at least, you listen to all of them. You listen to as many tracks from all of them as you need to know whether or not that album...
That one is solid, yeah.
So, to know that the record that we made spoke out from, you know, such a vast number of albums, it's a good feeling. It's cool. What's interesting is this idea that people have been engaging with it in such a intense way, you know, like really like thinking about the album, and that's what you hope when you make a record, that someone's going to think about it that way.
I can understand how Let Them Meet Chaos stands like in that process. That's the name of the album, by the way. No, I'm just saying for people who may not have checked it out, just check it out. It's a great album. Because it's like a movie, innit? Like I don't know what was the process behind making it, or like creating the characters. Was it based on like where did the inspiration come from? You know what I mean? Because for me, it felt like a very realistic, vivid depiction. You know what I mean? Was you seeing yourself in every character, or what? Explain to me. Was it different parts of your psyche? I was trying to decipher what is the thought process.
Wow. I think that every time you make a character, it always begins in a moment of lived truth or felt truth. The reason a character emerges is because you're trying to make sense of something that has happened, you know, to you, in you, around you. And I think that in some respects, yes, the characters can all be understood as beginning in some moment of my truth, but at the same time, they're characters. It's a story, it's a narrative. I worked really hard to try and just listen to what the idea wanted me to be doing. Yeah. So like, it starts, you know, you start the process thinking, hiya.
Yeah, just the locals, hey. No, feel free, right, man. You're here now. It's all good. Don't worry. So you were saying?
Well, like at the beginning of a process, you might have all these ideas about what you want the idea to be, but there's this beautiful moment that happens when you realise what the idea wants you to be doing. You know, like you stop directing it and it starts directing you, and that's like.
It's another day in the end, boy. That's how it is. It's organic still.
That was good, man. He was going fast. But yeah, so, I mean, the process of writing it, every single project is a different thing, but when we were making this album, there was this really kind of electrifying moment when all these different pieces started to slot in. I started to really understand who these 7 people were. It began with a question, which is like, who's awake at 4:18 a.m?
This leads on to my next question. Why 4:18? Like, I feel like I'm missing something. Why 4:18?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. Mainly because at that particular moment, you know, it's not the night anymore, it's not the day yet. Your time doesn't belong to your employer or your partner or your children. This is a time for these characters to be completely open about their vulnerabilities. They can't sleep. For one reason or another, they've either been at work and got home, or they haven't slept yet, or they've woken up from a nightmare. All these different things have brought these people into this animated state in a time when everybody else is asleep. So they're alone, you know, with their thoughts, which is really useful if you're a writer, to try and get into the truth of somebody's experience. When they're being truthful with themselves, you can get away with having a song all about how someone's feeling. You know?
That. No, I totally feel that. Even sonically, I felt like the production encapsulated that time. You get what I'm saying? I felt like when I was listening to it, it felt like it was night, and there was some parts where it felt like I could really kind of feel that emotion coming through. That's interesting, because I was trying to figure out why 418, but I see how it fits with the narrative. So would you say, like, between this and your last album, Everybody Down, which do you have a favourite, or is it just like?
Well, I mean, like, a lot's happened in the space between writing the first one and writing this one. In terms of, like, I've been writing a lot of different things. So I feel like I feel really attached to them both for just being a reflection of where I was at that time with my writing. And I feel closer to Let Them Eat Chaos because I'm touring it right now.
Yeah,
it's
I hear
happening.
that.
Everybody Down feels like a bit of a dream.
That's mad, because most people say I hate my first project, like I've grown past it. Like me, when I create something, it's like I become so detached from it so quickly. So the fact that you can still connect with it means you created something that you're proud of time, like for long forever.
It's like, I definitely know what you mean about like growing past things, and there's things that I've made that I regret some of the creative decisions. I wish I had more time with certain things, like, but there is a part of you that has to just let go and say, well, okay, that was that. And the beautiful thing about creativity is that the next piece could be better, be better, must be better.
Totally.
Like, and if you're ever completely satisfied with where you're at creatively, then no progress.
I hear that.
So like they're reminders, you know, they're like my friend Stephen Camden, who writes poems under the name Polar Bear. He said they're like time capsules that whisper next time you'll do better. That's what he told me, and he's right. You know?
Polar Bear's a G, man. He's a G. So back to the award. I mean, last question. So obviously, like I feel like when you write and you create as an artist, there's always this responsibility for the people around you, and kind of like you feel like you're writing and speaking for a community of people around you. Now, as you get bigger and you find that your reach broadens, I don't know, I felt at times, but especially when you're nominated for awards of this like esteem and this acclaim, do you feel like there's more responsibility on you now to talk about issues which affect the world in general or affect people outside of your community? Do you feel like as an artist, have to be more aware when you're creating, or is it just like, I don't give a shit, I'm creating what I'm going to create?
Wow, that's a deep question. I think that for me personally, I make work that is reaching for communication. There's some compulsion that makes me want to write that is about communication. It's not like I'm just writing for the sake of it, that I want my work to exist kind of in its own vacuum. It's for somebody. Like, I feel this need to speak with and to, I also feel, a need to receive and listen. It's like part of the same kind of process. I think that in the moment of making creative decisions or having ideas, the less you think about how they'll be received, the better. Like, I don't like to think about, who it's for. I know it's for someone, but it's in that moment of trying to think about what this idea wants me to do, I'm just trying to kind of turn everything off, really, and just try and get connected to this idea and do the best I can to be less clumsy with my writing, so that I can try and facilitate the idea as well as I can.
So I totally hear that. So last question, obviously, because like I have a lot of young aspiring writers, poets, spoken word, whatever, always ask me the question, and I think I'm the worst person to answer it, but I think you're a better person. What advice would you give anyone who's aspiring as a writer to get to the same? I mean, you're humble here right now, but you've had phenomenal achievements. You've had unprecedented level of success in this day and age, especially as the kind of art, the kind of stories you're telling. So, what advice would you give anyone aspiring at this moment? Like Kate Tempest is going to give you one piece of advice, and I'm going to ride with that to take my career to the next level, or to just take my work to the next level, my expression. What's that one? Just so we can sign off on that.
Well, it's a hard one, that, because, there's two things I think I want to say. When I was younger, I think I was about 17, 18, and I was desperate to be out there doing it. I was so hungry for it. I couldn't understand how to get further. I felt like I was like gigging constantly, writing all the time, but I couldn't work out how to progress. And I spoke to a hero of mine, Roots Maneuver. I managed to like wrap my way into his attention at this gig, managed to get on the mic, and I managed to speak to him, and he said to me, like, basically, you're not ready yet. He said to me, you need to put 10 years into this craft from this moment when you feel like you're ready. You need 10 years of that, and that's when you're ready. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, no way. Yeah. But 10 years later, I understand what he was trying to say to me, which is that this is a craft like any other. You know, and that hunger, the intensity, the need, the compulsion is extremely important part of what we do, but it's a craft. You know, you need to hone it and get the skills up. There's another thing that I should say, which is learn to trust your instincts. It's a very hard thing to do, to trust a creative instinct, but like, if you feel like you need to be heard, if you feel like, oh, I've written this thing, I need to get down to the open mic, I need to do it, is that your ego talking or is that your creative instinct? Like, why do you want it to be heard? Is it really ready yet? Is the idea as developed as it could be? You know? Don't rest on your laurels, trust your instincts and stay humble, really.
That's useful advice. You lot hear that, yeah? I just want to say congrats again for the nomination, you know what I mean? Irrespective of what happens, it's an amazing body of work. You should be proud of it. Thanks, as well. Man. No, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you very much for your time.
Congratulations on your work and your achievement.
I'm trying just out here, man. Just out here trying, but I appreciate it though, man. Cool. Is that cool? Sign out.